Welcome to this explainer on the commercial space race. We're looking at a pretty wild situation right now. Massive technological growth crashing headfirst into intense market volatility. Let's jump right in.
So we're living in this absolutely incredible era of space exploration, right? But here's the weird part. Why on earth are investors dumping space companies that are literally crushing their major milestones? We're going to look specifically at the contrasting strategies of Rocket Lab and AST Space Mobile today. Both of these companies are doing exactly what they promised to do, but their stocks, down. To figure out what's really going on, we have to look past the ticker symbols and see what's actually happening out there in orbit.
Just look at the recent headlines for these two. Rocket Lab just nailed the U.S. Space Force's Victus Haze mission. That proved they can launch on crazy short notice, which is a huge deal for defense. And then you have AST Space Mobile. They're locking down crucial regulatory approvals, expanding globally, and getting ready for these massive Bluebird satellite deployments. So, on paper, the business execution for both of these companies is just remarkably strong. But then reality kind of hits the market. Despite all those massive wins, both of these stocks recently took a dive. And actually, it wasn't just them. They dragged right along with the whole broader space sector. When you see that happen across the board, it tells us that this isn't a problem with their specific tech. It's macro market gravity just completely overpowering their individual liftoffs.
Okay, so to understand how they bounce back, we really need to dig into their distinct strategies. Let's look at Rocket Lab first. Their whole playbook is built on pure, unadulterated operational reliability. Consistent revenue growth, deep ties with the U.S. Space Force, an impressive backlog of work. They aren't just a launch provider anymore. They're expanding into a full-on space infrastructure company. Their strategy is all about being the most trusted partner out there.
And that brings us to their absolute crown jewel, the Neutron rocket program. This is their big ticket to scaling up. Right now, a few heavy hitters completely dominate the biggest space missions. But if Rocket Lab gets Neutron right, they step completely out of that small payload niche and right into the ring with the industry giants to fight for those super profitable, massive missions. It's a real David versus Goliath play.
Now let's pivot and look at AST Space Mobile, because their strategy couldn't be more different. They are playing a completely high-risk, incredibly high-reward game. They aren't trying to build rockets, they're trying to build a space-based cellular broadband network. We're talking about connecting remote regions all over the planet where cell towers literally don't exist. It's a staggeringly ambitious plan to just erase the global digital divide. And here is the craziest part of their plan. Zero. That is exactly how much specialized hardware you need to connect to AST's network. You don't need to bolt a satellite dish to your car or carry around a bulky receiver. It's designed to connect directly to the normal, everyday smartphone that's already sitting in your pocket. If they pull this off, the market size is, it's astronomical. But obviously, the technical hurdles to actually get there are massive.
So when you put the Rocket Lab and AST strategies side by side, the contrast is just wild. Rocket Lab is your B2B and government infrastructure play. They're chasing reliable, multi-segment revenue and steady launch capacity. AST Space Mobile, they are swinging for the fences with a B2C, massive global telecommunications play. They're both space companies, sure, but their paths to profitability and the kinds of risks they're taking on are in completely different universes.
So if both companies are making such huge strides in their own strategies, what's dragging them down? Well, meet the macro antagonist of our explainer today. Sector rotation. Whenever global uncertainty flares up, institutional investors get spooked. They yank their capital out of high-growth, high-risk sectors like space exploration, and they park it in safe, defensive, cash-generating assets. Because Rocket Lab and AST are growth stocks, they feel these market mood swings way more intensely than your average company. Let me walk you through the math here, because it's pretty straightforward, even if it is a bit brutal. Geopolitical tension causes oil prices to spike. That triggers inflation fears. So what do central banks do? They keep interest rates higher for longer. And for growth companies, whose massive profits are projected years down the road, those higher rates mechanically crush their current valuations. It literally doesn't matter how perfectly their satellites are working today.
So, long story short, absolutely brilliant news on the launch pad is just getting completely overshadowed by thunderstorms in the broader economy. Investors are basically taking a step back from long-term bets, while the short-term economic waters are so choppy. The market is pricing in the bad macro weather right now, not the incredible long-term business models of these companies.
And, we can't look at the board without talking about the elephant in the room. SpaceX. We've got Rocket Lab building their multi-segment launch business and AST chasing that massive telecom market, but hovering right above both of them is this dominant incumbent. SpaceX has unmatched launch experience and the massive scale of Starlink. So while Rocket Lab and AST have incredibly smart, distinct strategies, they're still playing in a sector where SpaceX sets a lot of the rules. Plus, the competition isn't just domestic. The whole global battlefield is shifting under our feet. China is making rapid advancements, specifically in reusable rockets, which adds a totally new layer of international pressure. Smart investors aren't just looking at who's winning today, they're calculating how these international rivals might squeeze market share and pricing power 5 or 10 years from now. So, to wrap this up, the recent stock dips we're seeing, that's about the macroeconomic weather. It is not a collapse in fundamentals. The space economy is here, it's real, and it's huge, but the ride is going to be bumpy. Whether it's Rocket Lab's government infrastructure strategy or AST's bold consumer connectivity play, the million-dollar question is this: as the dust settles, which of these companies will successfully convert today's brilliant innovation into sustainable long-term market dominance? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep your eyes on the skies.